Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to today's panel. Thank you for joining us for Earth Echo's Innovations in the Water Industry Expert Panel Discussion. So my name is Reece Whatmore. I am an EarthEcho Water Challenge Ambassador. I am from Sarasota, Florida, and I'm super passionate about using technology to help combat environmental issues. EarthEcho is an international nonprofit organization founded on the belief that youth have the power to change our planet. Our programs and resources have reached more than 2 million people in over 146 countries. This week is a celebration of World Water Day, and everyone can and should participate in the protection of their water resources. Today, we are excited to have students from all over the globe joining us, and we are super excited to learn about exciting and sustainable careers in the water industry. First, I would like to say a thank you to our sponsors, Xylem Watermark, for their support on EarthEcho's Water Challenge. Now, let's get started by introducing our incredible panel. Let's start with Alex Wells from Pure Technologies at Xylem. Alex, can you tell us what you do and where you're from?
Hi, I'm currently a client services manager for Pure Technologies, a Xylem company, and I'm based out of New Jersey. Right now, I work with clients and I help to perform pipeline condition assessments and to provide our clients with a framework on how to best manage their assets as efficiently as possible. And so we help them identify failing infrastructure as well as any water loss issues that they might have throughout their entire system.
Welcome, Alex. Next, let's welcome Phil, who is a research engineer at Smartfin. Phil, can you tell us what you do and where you're from as well?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name's Phil. I'm an assistant professor at UNC Wilmington on the coast of North Carolina. I'm also the head of research and development for Smartfin, which is a sensor-enabled surfboard fin that you can see right over my shoulder over there. And so I focus on all sorts of water quality issues and how to build better sensors so that we can understand what's going on in the water, teaching the next generation of students how to use those sensors and how to pay attention to the issues that really matter to all of us. So thanks for the opportunity to be with you today.
Thank you, Phil. Next, I'd like to introduce Lindsay. Can you tell us where you're from and what you do?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's so good to be with you. My name is Lindsay Lochner, and I am here in Boca Raton, Florida. And I'm an education ambassador for OCEARCH. OCEARCH was founded in 2007 by Chris Fisher, and we are doing ocean and shark research. We're currently on our 40th expedition in the Carolinas and gathering data for the baseline of health for sharks and on the ocean as well. And my role at the organization on the education team is to collaborate with our scientists and integrate the research that's being done on the ship into STEM curriculum and programs. And I get to participate in outreach opportunities like this one to connect students with the ocean, with research being done, as well as the technology of the global tracker, which we'll talk about later.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Last but not least, we have Dominique. Can you tell us where you're from and what you do as well? Dominique, you're on mute really quickly.
No, I keep doing that. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. I'm Dominique Lueckenhoff, and I'm actually in the Mid-Atlantic. And the reason I say that is I work in a variety of places on the East Coast, everywhere from New York City to Philadelphia, Virginia, and beyond. I actually have come from a career with the US EPA, and I'm a scientist. I've done many things. Today, I serve as Senior Vice President for Corporate Affairs and Chief Sustainability Officer for a company called Hugo, which has roots in recycling. At one point, one of the largest recyclers in the world. I also work on climate. Many companies are looking at how we need to reduce footprint and how we need to also, beyond our own company, protect our communities and the planet. So I work with communities, I work with nonprofit groups, and also look at emerging technologies that help to reduce impacts that would otherwise make climate change worse. So we're trying to beat the clock, and I'll stop there. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It is really an honor to have all of you here today. Okay, we have a series of questions that we will ask you today, but we also encourage our viewing audience to participate. So you can all send questions for our panel at any time using the Q&A in Zoom or by commenting on YouTube. Make sure to tell us your name, where you're from, and any questions you have at any time during this presentation. And we'll be sure to answer those as we go along. So let's get started with our first question. Our first question is, what inspired you to pursue a career in your field? So Dominique, would you like to answer that first?
Sure, and I think I had a slide there. There you go. You know, life is a journey, and I think you learn that for those of you that are, you know, still figuring out who you are and the kinds of things you liked and the subjects you like. As a young student, I liked many subjects. I liked everything from science to government. I also really loved music. So my brother and I, and you see that ancient picture there, used to perform, play guitar. I wrote a lot of songs and thought, this is what I'm going to do. But in the meantime, I really like science. And I followed my brother essentially from undergrad. He pursued a PhD in physics. I pursued graduate degrees in biophysics, and microbiology was really my interest. I thought I might go to med school, but as I followed the music, I ended up, I was in school in Houston and ended up in Austin, Texas. That's the lower Colorado River you see there. And I went from working in a lab to working for the government and running environmental programs for the city of Austin. I really like the idea of being a public servant and of doing good and of helping greater society, which was always a part of me. So I had a chance to work as an environmental scientist while writing local codes and ordinances and helping to improve the environment and life of the public. That led me then to EPA, and I traveled around the country and worked in various EPA regions. I worked in Washington, D.C. I was featured as an up-and-coming scientist. You see some of those pictures. And then I saw climate change as our biggest challenge and wanted the ability to really work with many groups on climate change. And that's what led me to this position. You see down on the lower right, one of the first things I did was attend a climate summit on sustainability at the United Nations. I know I've gone over time, but look, it's all kind of complicated, and you have to realize there's not necessarily one path, but many that'll lead you to where you're going to find some joy and happiness in what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's a great answer. Phil, would you like to go next?
Please, yeah, thanks for the chance. So I'm actually really glad that Dominique said that, you know, it's a process and you kind of wind along this path, because that's been really true for me. I had no idea that I wanted to work in the field of oceanography until fairly recently. And to be perfectly honest, I think I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. It's a continuous process, continuous evolution. But I was really lucky to have family that lived close to the coast, close to the Atlantic coast. And so I spent a lot of time in the water as a kid and really learned to love it, and decided to study chemical engineering. And I just enjoyed chemistry, math, and also being outside. And so when I was looking for what to do with a job after school, I came across the field of oceanography, and it sort of just clicked immediately. I thought, wow, that combines everything, all of these academic interests and my love for nature and being outside. I, like Dominique, had just learned more about climate change and specifically the impacts that humans are having on the oceans. And I thought we need to learn more about that and learn what we can do about it, and how to tap into the ocean for the solutions it provides for all of us as well. So that led me over a couple different opportunities in science and at a nonprofit research center to my current position here at the university.
Thank you so much. Our next question is going to be, what is the coolest thing about your job? And Alex, would you like to go first?
Thank you. The coolest thing about my job is, I've gotten to travel with a lot of the various inspection teams we've done. So I've kind of been around the country and, get to meet new people and see how things are done differently in different parts of the country or world. I get to do engineering analysis and like reporting, but at the same time, I get to go out into the field and really physically see what it is we're talking about. So you kind of get to put a visual to all of the theoretical stuff that we talk about and that we analyze. I love being able to engage with our clients and try to help them solve their problems and working in a collaborative environment where we're all brainstorming together and we're trying to do the best that we can to work with one another. Like every day is different, and we know we're all working to make the world a better place, which is completely awesome. Much like all of my fellow panelists, where everything you do is really kind of helping society around you. So, I mean, that's got to be the coolest thing about what we all do.
Yeah, I love that answer. Next, Lindsay, would you like to talk about the coolest thing about your job?
Sure, thanks so much. So I think some of the coolest things about my job as a volunteer with OCEARCH is the connection that we have with the research and the students. And so I have the amazing opportunity to go out to the ship when it's on expedition and learn what I've always loved, which is anything about the ocean, especially with sharks. The research that is being focused on right now is the life history of the Northwest Atlantic white shark. And so I've had the incredible opportunity to be on the ship and hear about the research and then watch these a white shark named Vimy in Nova Scotia be tagged and see the scientists collaborating together. And so taking that experience and taking all of that research and being able to share it with students and hopefully inspire them to be able to pursue careers in STEM and because they're the future of the planet as stewards of it, as the future policymakers of it. Those are probably some of the coolest parts of what I do.
Awesome, thank you. So moving on to our next question, what paths led you to be where you are today? And we'll go ahead and start with Alex on this question.
I think I was lucky enough to have a really, really influential teacher back in, like, I think it was freshman year of high school. And he inspired me to, look at environmental science or engineering. And so teachers are so influential in getting kids, excited and wanting to do something with their lives. I ended up going to Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken, New Jersey, where I got a degree in environmental engineering, English literature of all things. And then I went on and I got my master's in construction management. So, I guess being able to write is a big part of what I do. And so that's been extremely helpful with my career. And so I went to Stevens, and originally, though, I thought I was either going to go into more of the ocean engineering side of things or environmental law, because I was like, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. As I started taking more and more classes, I realized that my real passion had to do with water or wastewater treatment. And I had my senior design advisor who worked for one of the major consulting firms. He really inspired us to really kind of look at the field. And it's really funny because out of my small classroom, I think at least half of us ended up in the water industry because of him. So, he's influenced us all beyond belief. wanting to be in a career where I could do something positive, I could be a positive role model, and like being able to be that positive role model for my son is like so important to me. Like it's so important to me that he's proud of what I do, and just being able to say that I'm really excited about the work that we do. So then I was in the consulting field for a very long time, where I worked on a variety of water projects from hydraulic modeling to design, treatment to pipelines. And, now I'm at Pure Technologies doing a little bit of everything. And I've always been very involved with AWWA, with the American Waterworks Association. And so part of my passion is just reaching out to the world around us and people understanding that water professionals are, essential now, essential always. So that's kind of my path.
Great, thank you. I just want to remind all our viewers to keep dropping any questions you have into the Q&A or comment section as we go through, and we'll get to those in a little bit. Next, same question. Lindsay, would you like to answer on what path led you to where you are today?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So when I was young, I was very fortunate to have really supportive grandparents. And this is my Anna and granddaddy, and my parents were very supportive as well. But they took me to the ocean for the first time. And my grandparents had a lake cottage up in northern Michigan. And so I had the opportunity to spend time on freshwater and looking at the shells that were washing up on the beach. And I just loved anything and everything about the water. So they started to encourage me to pursue marine biology actually as a career. But what I found was that as I started taking classes at Indiana University, I had a real passion for educating students about what I was learning and finding and seeing too. So I became a first grade teacher, which is the other picture you see there. And at the same time, when I became a first grade teacher, Chris Fisher and the OCEARCH team they were doing a show called Shark Wranglers on television. And they said that there would be an app coming where anybody could for free track their sharks and see where they're swimming in real time. And I thought, oh my golly, my students would absolutely love this. And so I took the technology of the tracker and started writing lesson plans for my first graders. And when I reached out to Mr. Fisher, he agreed to talk to them on Skype. And it was the first ever Skype our school had done, which was a really amazing experience for the students. And during that conversation, he said, we have curriculum. And I said, yeah, but I noticed you could use some kindergarten through second grade curriculum as well. And he said, let's have a conversation about that. And that led me to joining the team that you see down there below. I couldn't do what I do without the amazing scientists, the crew. To the left, that's Captain McBride, who's our fishing master and ship captain. He has been a huge support of the education team and loves to impart his knowledge onto the students that come to the ship, which we really have appreciated. We have our development director, Stephanie Brown. She's been a huge support of education as well, connecting us with some amazing organizations like yours. And one of our scientists and Jacksonville University student, Christina. And then you can be an artist and be a part of OCEARCH too, which is what I love. And that's my friend Brooke Kanani, who makes incredible jewelry and uses the gifts that she has to give back to the ocean. And then our chief scientist, Dr. Huger, who has been a wonderful mentor to me, helping me to understand the research going on the ship and how to communicate it best. And then these people have brought me to the ship where I've had incredible experiences like this one. That's Vimy, who I mentioned earlier. And finally, bringing full circle that connection of my grandparents who wanted me to pursue marine science and that I wanted to pursue marine science, to actually getting to do both teaching, which I love, and learn about marine science has been a dream come true, really. So.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing. Our next question is, how does your work contribute to a sustainable future? And Phil, will you go ahead and answer that first?
Sure. So I'm a firm believer in the philosophy that I think I first heard from Professor Catherine Hayhoe, who is now the director of the Nature Conservancy, which is that one of the most effective things that we can do to contribute to a sustainable future is to talk about it, to talk about how important this issue is, to talk about it with our families, with our communities. And so through my career so far, I've had a lot of really great and fun ways to do this, whether it's through classroom education and teaching college students in a couple classes that I teach right now on oceanography and ocean solutions about some of these opportunities, or in these kind of informal settings similar to what we're doing right now, similar to what you see in these images here, where we're out in the field collecting data and talking about why some of these data sets actually matter for understanding how nature is functioning and how we can help protect it. And then I guess I just want to close that note by saying it's also really important to listen. We have to understand what communities care about, what individuals care about, what matters in different locations. Context is of course really important. So it's a combination of these things, talking about why I think that the planet matters, the planet's health, and of course in my work, water's health is so important, but also understanding what local communities care about wherever they may be.
Thank you so much. Uh, Dominique, would you like to go ahead and answer that question as well?
Sure. I mentioned earlier that my career with EPA, I managed programs that span significantly on the water side, programs like the Chesapeake Bay program and Delaware Estuary, many large watersheds. We all live in a watershed. We're also all downstream and upstream, so we've got to be good stewards. And I've always worked with sustainable communities. Many, many years ago, I created a program called Green Communities. In fact, President Clinton took it to South Africa, and I was due to go with them, and actually found out I was pregnant with my son and I couldn't travel, and that was a joy of my life. He's a little older today, and there's some days I sort of question it, but I believe that if we're going to be sustainable, it's important that we not leave anyone behind. We have some communities that don't have access. Their water resources are polluted. They've been downstream and they've not been able to help themselves. So we call these, this is a social justice. Anytime there's disparate impacts where more communities get more waste, and those water bodies aren't cleaned up, all our water bodies are connected. And you see a slide up in the left, I've worked on an area called stormwater management. And that's, when it rains and you've got many impervious surfaces, that rain runs off, it carries with it any pollutant that is on the ground. So you can imagine what that can include and why we end up having toxics in our water supplies. And then how do we treat them? Promoting instead of stormwater as a waste, rainwater as a resource. With climate, we've got disparate impacts. We've got some places that get too much water. I'm from South Louisiana. I grew up with hurricanes. Hurricane Katrina was something we'd never, ever imagined, as much as we thought we were used to living with water. So today I have a living lab of 130 acres, which is wonderful for a scientist. Through my company, we do everything from restoring wetlands and living shorelines and oysters that help with sea level rise and climate. And that's the picture you see below. We're finishing 1 megawatt of solar energy right at this moment. We're also putting local people to work on how to install solar. I'm on a big brownfield that has all kinds of toxics, and I'm working with beneficial reuse applications of restoring health to the soils and eliminating exposures, green infrastructure, you name it. You can just see it's all kinds of things. And we also have offices where we are a landlord. And that's the thing about sustainability. It's people, planet, profit, purpose. So how do we live? How do we make a living and ensure for a sustainable future as we continue to be stewards of this planet? We don't own any of it, but we have to take care of it. And that's what you see is our motto, private assets for public good. So many of the companies we house or we bring in single, small companies that we help to get on their feet in clean tech. We've got a blogger that has 10 million followers. If I told you his name, you might know him. But we also have the Wu-Tang Club at our facilities in the next year. They're filming there. So it's a real mix and assortment that mimics sort of who we are, with everyone truly believing that we have to take care of the planet. And that's something that we explain when you get there. And we have a few canines around. So it's a great reminder that it's important for us to take care of ecology in nature, our people, our animals, and everything for a sustainable future. And Alex, I might mention, I sponsor a sustainability seminar series with the engineering school at Stevens. They're a big partner.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that answer. Our next question, moving on, is there any technology that you use on the job? And Phil, why don't you go ahead with that question?
Yeah, I would say I use technology pretty much nonstop in my job, and a whole range of technologies, from the really well-established stuff. What you see in the upper left-hand corner here is me scrubbing all of this biofouling off of a multi-parameter water quality sensor from YSI. Multi-parameter meaning it's measuring pH, dissolved oxygen, the algae in the water, a handful of other things, temperature for sure. And then what you can see in kind of the upper right-hand corner there, as well as along that bottom panel all the way across the screen, is technology and development. So a lot of my work is taking these prototype technologies and trying to refine them. And so on the bottom, this is sort of every 6 months period of development of the technology that we ended up putting in Smartfin. So one of the biggest challenges with Smartfin is that a surfboard fin, where we're trying to put all of the technology, is almost razor thin. It's just a few millimeters wide at its thickest point. And so fitting ocean sensors into that has been a huge challenge. And I should definitely add here that this isn't all me. I've been really lucky to work with a team of very talented engineers and scientists. And one of the things that I really love about working in the field of ocean engineering and ocean technology is that you get to apply a really wide variety of skills and learn things on the fly. So a little bit of electrical engineering, a little bit of computer science and coding, a lot of data analysis, all combined with field work, getting out there and actually collecting the measurements. And all of these things are things that I learned on the job, things that I didn't really know when I came into it. And if I looked at pictures like this when I started, I would have been really intimidated. But slowly picking up little bits at a time and figuring out what is a printed circuit board and how do you alter it to make the measurements that you want, and how do you put different sensors on there. So lots of different technology in lots of different settings, and it's all fun in different ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Lindsay, do you want to go ahead and talk about the technology you use on your job?
Sure, absolutely. So at OCEARCH, one of the founding projects where it all started was the first research project was with a spot tag, which is a smart position or temperature tag. And it is giving scientists the most accurate location data on sharks. We were studying the movements of white sharks in the Pacific when it first started off the coast of California. And we were starting to get real-time data for the first time so we could start to learn where these areas are that are vital to the life history of the white shark, trying to find the mating area, the birthing area, and these foraging areas, as well as these offshore gestation areas for white sharks. Now in several places around the world, but where it started was in the Pacific Ocean off California, like I said. So this spot tag is the technology that kind of started it all. And when OCEARCH went to Cape Cod in 2012, the app launched and the website really launched, being able to open source and share this spot tag data with everybody. So everyone could follow along at the same time, seeing the movements of these sharks and be a part of the conversation, because we believe that it's going to take all of us in order to have a sustainable and healthy and abundant ocean and planet in the future. So that's the technology, the tracker, and the technology of the spot tag. And then the other tag that you see in that photo, because we do more than one tag for each white shark that we tag. This is the PSAT tag, and it's a pop-off satellite archival tag. And it will use ambient light as a way to measure how white sharks not only use horizontal movements throughout the ocean, but also vertical movements. How are they using the water column, which could give us some information about how they use the area as well as their position. So what happens is that tag is programmed to pop off after a certain amount of time. And it can be, a couple days to 6 months to a year. And then it will come off and pop up on the surface of the ocean. And then when a satellite comes overhead, it will upload the data to that satellite, and scientists can gather the information that way. So you have the location tag, that's a 5-year battery life on that tag, which should give us 2 life cycles, gestation cycles for an adult female white shark. And then the PSAT tag giving us, like I said, those vertical movements. So we kind of get a 3D picture, if you will, of how sharks are using the ocean in the Northwest Atlantic. So it's pretty cool. I also brought this is the 3D printed spot tag, but you can kind of get an idea of the size of it. And this is a 3D printed version of our actual tags. And it's put on the dorsal fin, and it is able to come off after those 5 years and doesn't interfere with the development of the fin or anything on the shark, but it's given us some really interesting insights. And we also are doing more projects now. We're up to 24 research projects on every single shark that we tag, which is really exciting. We're not just doing one, we're including all of these different studies as well, and are including more and more technologies as they become available, using drone footage to get an idea of how an area is where we are on expedition, using BRUV technology as a passive way to gather information on sharks on expedition now too. So it's really exciting work that we're starting to do as we add more and more technologies to our research.
Awesome, Lindsay. Going off that, Joey had a question, and he was wondering, how many sharks have you tagged, and also if you tag any other animals in the ocean?
I'd be happy to answer that. So we have a sample size as part of the Northwest Atlantic White Shark Project. That's our focus right now. So if you hear me talking about white sharks, that's why. That's our primary focus at this time. We've tagged over 300 animals, though, in total, which is pretty amazing, spanning about 17 different species. Not all of them get spot tags, but we are enabling communities, scientific communities around the world, based on what their needs are and the research that they're doing. So that's how many. We're hoping to have 100 white sharks for this specific study, though, to complete that sample size.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next question, we would like to know, what is one of the biggest challenges in your field at the current moment? And Dominique, would you like to go ahead and answer that question?
And since I took a few extra seconds, maybe I think I hit some of the challenge in my last explanation. Is that water's life, and water belongs to all of us, and we are stewards. And we've got communities that have had an unshared burden in terms of impacts. As we look to 2050 and realize that climate is heating the earth, right? And so it means in some places, as they get hotter, there's going to be drought and no water. And water is finite. Not everyone has access to the same amount of water. And also, unfortunately, for many communities, that water is very polluted. So, how do we bring balance to today? Because there's a lot of imbalance, and I've seen it, and you just think of a poor community. There are communities that have water sources stored in wooden storage units that are over 300 years old, that I found in working in this area at EPA. And then there are also communities that really they're going to have to move, right, as a climate similar to Katrina. They have to move somewhere else, and they have no means. That's now. That's now. How do we bring balance? COVID, we saw more poor people die. So if we're going to be looking at climate, which is very complex, we need people to be educated. We need smart thinkers. We need integrated thinkers. And we need to remember the upstream, downstream in a watershed, that it's very important how we conserve and take care of those resources and not pass on another impact to someone else who unfortunately oftentimes cannot address it. So you see that picture that was at a conference on environmental and social justice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Moving on to Alex, would you like to answer about one of the biggest challenges in your area right now?
Sure. First of all, just a shout out to Dominique. I'm really glad you're working with my alma mater, Stevens. So that's really exciting to hear. As far as challenges, I think the biggest challenge in my sector of the industry is just having people understand that we need to invest in our infrastructure, and a lot of the infrastructure I deal with is buried. So people don't see it, and they don't understand how much work actually goes into providing clean water or efficient, wastewater treatment. And it's not free. And when you compare what most people pay for tap water, which is pennies on the gallon, versus what you'd pay for bottled water, you're really kind of getting a really, you're kind of getting a bargain for what you pay for. So I think a lot of our biggest challenge is bringing, from where I am, is just shining a spotlight on the industry and having people understand what goes into, providing safe drinking water, and, for people to understand that water is life, and we do have to look at, water equity and being able to provide safe drinking water for all communities. And I think the other challenge is also just, we want you involved in the industry. We need talent, and it doesn't have to be an engineer. We need all sorts of people working within the water industry. So a lot of different, we need scientists, we need engineers, we need people in construction, we need accountants, HR personnel, but I guess just everybody working towards the common good. But again, I think the biggest thing is just understanding that just because you don't see the asset, it doesn't mean that it's not there and that it doesn't need attention. So.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question. What are some common misconceptions people have about the water industry? And Dominique, would you go ahead and answer that first?
Well, let me just say that the misconception is that it is its own industry. Water really is about our very survival. It's bigger than being an industry. And if I had to talk about it as an industry, and in terms of what it was 20, 15 years ago, it's integrated. Wastewater, stormwater, drinking water, land. So your water is what we put on the land. Our water is what we put in the air, emissions. And if you've heard of eutrophication, which it was my thrill years ago to work with Philippe Cousteau on an educational segment talking about dead zones in the Chesapeake Bay. So it really is all of us. It's our communities, it's our societies, and we have to have better ways of working together. And I think that's what's important, that we not compartmentalize what we each do, that we all have a responsibility to water and to air, and to ensure that everyone has a right to safe and clean water, air, and the food we eat and land. So bigger than an industry.
Thank you for that great answer. Next, Alex, would you like to go ahead and answer this question?
Well, I guess I don't, work is never boring. We're always doing different, every project's different. And I think from what you've seen in the panel, every path is different. So there's so many different ways that you can influence our, the state of our drinking water. And, it is a one water approach where it's not just your drinking water, but you're also dealing with your groundwater, your ocean water. The amount of water that we've got on Earth is finite, and it never increases and it never decreases. But the amount of drinking water, quality drinking water, that's what we're affecting as we go through. Again, everybody who's involved, or most people who are involved, they're in it in order to make the world a better place. And I think that a lot of times water professionals might be taken for granted in the sense that you only really hear about us when something goes wrong. But think about all the times that stuff does go right. I mean, you turn on your water faucet, you flush your toilets, and it's something that's always there, and people do take it for granted. It's just, I guess the common misconception is that, maybe it isn't important. Careers are abundant in our field. I mean, if you want job stability, you should join, you should look into water, because it's always going to be around. So I guess that's the biggest misconception. It's not boring, and you've got more of an impact than you'd ever think you'd ever have. And the New Jersey section of AWWA created this Celebrating Water Professionals video during just recently during COVID, because we wanted to make sure that people involved in the industry got some sort of recognition, because they went to work every single day, and they continued to make sure that we had safe and reliable drinking water. And, again, kind of sort of being taken for granted, and we're okay with that, but we wanted to make sure that the general population was made aware. I'm Alex Wells, and I'm proud to be a water professional.
I'm Anna Santino. I'm proud to be a water professional.
I'm Joe Bella. I'm proud to be a water professional.
I'm Kareem Adeem. I'm proud to be a water professional.
My name is Alan Welland. I'm proud to be a water professional.
Hi, I'm Hadel Mystery.
I'm Sophia Hain. I'm proud to be a water professional.
I'm Jim LaGrossa.
I'm Stephanie Bolden.
I'm Sylvania Mercado, and I'm proud to be a water professional.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that answer. We'd like to move on to our final question today. So we're going to kind of combine with what is the number one way we can make a difference as a student. And a few people in the chat have asked, Addie asked, what can my role in helping the environment as a high school student? Becca asked, what programs do you recommend for high schoolers to get involved? So if you want to wrap in the impact that students can make, both high school, middle school, and even elementary school students, if they're watching here today, we would love to hear your answers to that. Lindsay, would you like to go ahead and start?
I think one of the ways that students can make a difference is it can start at home, right? The choices that we make with how much water we're using, with the electricity that we use, looking at our everyday choices when it comes to single-use plastic. That's something that we encounter. Every shark that we've tagged and done studies on has had microplastics in them. So it's not just impacting sharks, it's obviously also impacting the ocean as well. And that's a choice that we can make to reduce our use, as well as recycling. And then I think it goes to the school system, right? And say, what can I do at school? Maybe it's taking a look at what you're using in your cafeteria. Is it plastic cutlery? Is there a way that you can help raise funds for a reusable water bottle filling station? Those are some things. Ask some questions with your teachers and administration. See how you can get involved and see how you can help. You can also do community cleanups. Those make a difference. Whether you're right next to a water source or not, you can have an positive impact on the planet and our water. So it starts at that level as well. And yeah, I think those are some of the ideas that I have.
Those sound like great ideas. Thank you. Phil, would you like to go ahead and jump in here?
Absolutely. So I'm going to echo something that I talked about a little bit before, and some of the other panelists have as well, which is talk about it. I think that the number one thing that we can do is talk to people, kind of going off of what Lindsay just said, talking about it at your school, talking about it with your family. You know, sometimes it might seem tough because not everyone is ready to listen or knows what the issues are. But if you can impact even one other person, one teacher, one classmate, one family member, that has a real impact, and that can kind of ripple out, to use another water analogy, and have these bigger effects on the planet. And then to add on to that a little further, I would say that talking about it not just from an environmental perspective, but from a human first perspective, because all these things we're talking about, whether they're pollution in the water or access to water or impacts from drought and floods and so on, they're all things that impact humans. And so not just talking about the impacts that are happening to our planet in this abstract sense, but what's happening to our communities and our neighbors and our own families and so on, whether they're here living right next to or otherwise. And as far as some of the organizations and groups that you can get involved with, I mean, obviously EarthEcho, there are other groups like Waterkeeper Alliance and Surfrider Foundation, and so many out there, too many that I couldn't even name all of them, but a lot of different groups that are doing kind of on the ground, local, community focused, engaged work. And I think it's really, there's some great opportunities to work with them and make a difference.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd also like to flag, I am an EarthEcho Water Challenge ambassador. And if you're interested, I know that applications for the next cycle of EarthEcho Water Challenge ambassadors will open soon. So go check out the EarthEcho website. There's tons of amazing information on there on ways to get involved, ways to learn more, and ways to make an impact. So that's always another great resource for everyone of all ages. Dominique, do you have anything to add to how someone can make an impact?
Actually, I think the suggestions made are great. What you're doing right now, educate yourself. Do you know what watershed you're in? There are informational tools online. In fact, EPA had one, Know Your Watershed. So you know what the greatest pollutant impacts are in your watershed. and working together. You have power together. I think of Greta Thunberg, and I think of you guys, and the fact that parents, as much as I hate to admit this as a parent, but it's you that put pressure on us. When I ran water conservation programs in Austin, because we really had to mandate limited water use at the time, we sent educational materials home and water conservation devices home through the students. And that's actually how we had the greatest impact, because when you teach the adult and it's your future and it's your legacy, and you're turning to us and saying, all right, how are you going to ensure we have a fighting chance? So that's the advocate, government, civic sort of part of me that says you have a voice. You can access elected officials. As Phil pointed out, there are many nonprofit groups that educate. EarthEcho, that's why I'm here. I think this is one of the best. As well, there are groups in your community that are doing things about improving water resources. So educate yourself, understand how these impacts work, how it happens, and access those champions in your watershed and in your community to contribute.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer as well. Alex, is there anything last you'd like to add on the impact people can make as a student?
I think everybody before me kind of really, their answers kind of really meet the spectrum of everything that you need to do. Just stay involved. You can contact your local utilities, you can contact your local universities even, and there are ways to get involved. And if you want to learn, there are mentoring programs out there, and know that you don't necessarily have to be an engineer or a scientist to be a part of the water industry, and don't be afraid to ask, and get involved with a lot of everything everybody else said. Ditto. I agree.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of those answers. Once again, we would like to thank our sponsor of the event, Xylem Watermark, as well as all of you for being our experts on our panel. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you continue to celebrate World Water Day this week and all year long. Stay tuned to all of EarthEcho's channels to stay up to date on events throughout the year. You can access all of our free online learning resources, another way to, as all of our panelists said, to stay up to date and educate yourself and others on these issues. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and sign up for our newsletter at earthecho.org. So on behalf of EarthEcho International, thank you so much for tuning in today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep exploring. Bye, everyone. Thank you.